We're going to be talking his favourite subject now, Manchester United, who slipped to their 13th defeat in 30 Premier League games this season. They lost at Nottingham Forest. Flex, are you worried? Are you upset? Or is this just become a normality when it comes to Man United?
Why on earth would I be worried and upset at this stage of the season with what I've seen? Absolutely not. I am fully focused on Thursday night, Lyon away from home, and making sure we are in good nick.
But that in itself, right?
Back.
You've gone from like Tuesday and Wednesday night Champions Leagues against the very best in the world to Thursday night football. That Thursdays are Spurs days as far as I'm concerned. And now they've become Manchester United.
But to be honest, that yo-yo in between the two we've been doing that the last 5 years as well. So that's normal to me. One season in Champions League, back down to Europa, back up again. This season is, could really be no European football, which would really hurt us financially. But no, in terms of losing against Forest, I predicted we wouldn't lose the game. I thought we'd get a draw, and a draw was there on the cards. We really nearly got a draw from Harry Maguire. But the weird thing is, right, is we're actually improving in terms of the players being a bit more comfortable in this new system. But the problem is, Harry, it's just the quality. The attack, Man United's attack is pathetic. There's no other way to describe it. There's no other way to talk about it. It's pathetic. There's no Premier League defenders that look on in fright at the prospect of playing against, Joshua Zirkzee, Garnacho, Højlund, etc. It just isn't there. And now we're seeing that the quality of player just isn't there at Man United. And I wasn't surprised. Although I didn't predict us to lose, I wasn't totally surprised, and I definitely wasn't mad about it. We actually played some decent stuff up until the final third, and we just didn't have a clue. Alejandro Garnacho, I have no idea why he was just shooting on sight. Just selfish. He's got this kind of Ronaldo thing about him. He just wants to just score and wrap it in the far corner.
But not the quality to do it.
Oh my goodness! Listen, we're not professional athletes, right? And if we were, we would understand some of the psyche about how good you have to be, and mentally, you want to be the best, follow the best. I get that, have that, but then there's a line, mate. Just pass the ball. We're in the power league with someone who's got the flashy boots, the socks are over the ankles, the knees. Sorry, they're strutting about, and you go, mate, just pass the ball. Like, that's how he's playing at the moment. So we just don't have the quality to score consistent goals.
When it comes to the bigger picture, though, at Manchester United, you must have some concern about that, because I sat and listened to that Sir Jim Ratcliffe interview a few weeks ago, which I thought was a car crash, by the way. I thought it was terrible. I thought he came across really badly. I thought he said loads of the wrong things. You look at that and you listen to the state that the club's got itself into financially, and I say got itself into. The Glazers have obviously played a massive part in that. Let's not fail to acknowledge that. But I would be looking at this squad and thinking, with what he said, with the fact that they're taking away people's lunches, and that there's probably going to be a massive resource dump on this stadium now, how do Man United turn this around anytime soon? Because we can all see that the team needs surgery. I think Ralph Rangnick said years ago that the team needs open heart surgery. The same thing stands, but it feels like there isn't the resource to make that happen.
Yeah, and that's why they have to get creative in terms of selling players. That's why we're seeing the likes of Garnacho potentially up for sale. We know Marcus Rashford's going to be leaving. You'd imagine there's been talk of even Kobbie Mainoo potentially. They're getting very creative with that. Last year, it was Wan-Bissaka, Scott McTominay, and one other who's gone off the top of my head, Mason Greenwood, that raised over 100 million. So that's how they're trying to do it.
But you're going to run out of those players.
100%.
That's the problem.
Exactly. Sooner or later, you've got to start getting your recruitment right. We're also trying to buy younger players for cheaper. You look at what we did with Aiden Heaven. We've taken him out of your academy, essentially, and on the bench for Arsenal, playing games for Man United before he got injured for 1.5 million quid. So we're starting to get a little bit more inventive. But what's basically buying a load of kids and putting more pressure on them to do it? We need players who are good now. We need players who can contribute now. And it doesn't fill you with optimism or confidence as a fan. Like you say, when you hear the hierarchy talking like that, saying we're basically potless, and if we didn't make these changes, we would have run out of money by the end of 2025. Then you get a new stadium announced. You're like, okay, well, it's not marrying up.
Yeah.
So this summer, I think, is going to tell us. I don't want to go too mad yet. I want to wait for this summer. I'm going to take a leaf out of your book, Harry, the measured book, which is just keep calm. Let's get to the summer. Let me see what they do.
Facade, mate.
You're not really like that. But I'm going to take a leaf out of your public facade book, yeah, because I need to see what they do in the summer. the way they've been creative in cost cutting, do that with the squad.
Yeah.
I want to see that same ruthlessness applied to getting the right quality of player. And I understand a lot hinges on us making Champions League. That we'll be shopping in a different aisle for players if you can get the Champions League. I'm not expecting miracles, but I need a severe sort of rebuild of that attack. Severe.
I just want to focus on something that Simon Jordan spoke about a little bit earlier on. He said that it's fair to say that some players are kind of thriving away from Manchester United, maybe because of the weight of the shirt. I think all of that's fair.
Yeah.
But surely it's Manchester United's responsibility to create an environment where those guys can thrive. Because if countless players go away from Manchester United, as we're seeing at the moment, Rashford's playing well again, Anthony's thriving over in Seville with Real Betis, which I never thought I'd see, to be honest with you. He's been brilliant. You know, they're desperate to keep a hold of him. You look at some of the other players that have moved on and that are doing really well, and you start to think, well, you can point the finger at the players and say they as individuals couldn't handle the weight of the shirt. But at what point do you go, actually, it's the environment. The environment's wrong. And how do you go about fixing that?
100%. Man United has been a broken institution for a while. And Simon makes some good points, ones that I agree a lot with. But you can't rid the institution of providing the right environment, 100%. Man United recruitment's been disgraceful. Just the identification of certain players to come in and do certain jobs for certain managers has been all wrong with the fees attached to that. It's been all wrong. So you immediately create the wrong environment by bringing in Anthony for £80 million. He should never cost that. You've immediately set Rasmus Højlund up to fail for bringing him in for, including add-ons, north of £70 million with no help or support. And the kid's drowning out there. So, you get so many, chances at trying to bring in the right players before you keep failing, and then that's on you. You're contributing to your institution being like this. Having said that, though, there is a lot of revisionism that does happen within the United fan base. All of a sudden, we should bring back Fred. All of a sudden, we should bring back McTominay. He's thriving at Napoli. All of a sudden, now that Anthony's not bad, bring him back. But Ruben Amorim spoke about it yesterday. He does have a point. These guys did have an opportunity. We're not talking about players who didn't get the chance to play for Man United. Yeah. For loads of reasons, yes. But even as a neutral, that loads of people have seen these players and gone, no, they ain't. One of the problems at Man United, he's not good enough. He's not good enough. So what is it now? That actually Anthony's not that bad, we should bring him back and try and get a player about him because actually the environment's wrong? Or would you still say Anthony's not good enough to play for Man United?
It's hard because I think for me, I look at it in the way that actually them going elsewhere and doing okay, it amplifies the point that Manchester United is broken. It's in some cases you can make the argument that Simon's made that they as individuals maybe will thrive being a kind of bigger fish in a smaller pond
100%.
rather than being the guy at a club like Manchester United where the expectation level is ridiculous. But it does feel like insane. I don't want to go down that route because I feel like in going down that path I'm almost excusing Manchester United, the football club, for the failure of those players, and I'm putting it all on them, which I don't think is fair. Because if they work elsewhere, then surely there's...
But do you know why the
issue.
biggest problem is recruitment, Harry? I'll tell you why, right? It's because letting the players go is one thing, but the strike rate of replacing them with a better player or a player that thrives is low. That's the problem. So Elanga, look at the style of play Forest play, right? Sit off, on the counter-attack, loads of space for him to run into. If you ask Anthony Elanga to be an inside 10 with his back to goal and take loads of touches in the half spaces, we probably wouldn't see this version of Anthony Elanga. Look at David De Gea when he left. He was having an absolute mare of a season where it was like, okay, all right, I think we're going to have to change it. Problem wasn't necessarily moving on David De Gea. The problem was replacing him with Andre Onana. So you're already looking at it going, well, that's a downgrade. Why have you done that? So if we would have had a keeper that was solid now and we didn't talk about the keeper, you go, got that one right. Wan-Bissaka moved to West Ham because Mazraoui's come in and he's quite competent. It isn't, why on earth have you done that? We'll bring Wan-Bissaka back. So I think because the strike rate is low with the player you replace them with, which leads us back to, like you say, in the club, the recruitment side of it, we talk about that more so than actually a big fish in a small pond. You'll probably enjoy that more. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, Europa League offers Manchester United a chance to kind of put a gloss on the season.
If we end up in the Champions League, Harry. Yeah,
can you imagine? But can you imagine
14th in the Premier League, mate?
It's crazy to think.
Nasty work that.
But the reason that could be so significant is because when we talk about Manchester United needing to undergo this rebuild, and we talk about there maybe not being the funds necessarily to do that. At least that's the picture that's being painted. Champions League qualification can, and I used to say this about Arsenal in the early days under Mikel Arteta. Champions League qualification can accelerate a process.
Absolutely.
It doesn't complete it. It doesn't allow you to go from step 1 to step 4. There's a lot of work that needs to be done in between, but it can speed it up. And so there is a potential for Manchester United to turn this into actually quite a good season in the grand scheme.
Well, in the grand scheme, especially because of how bad it's been with Ruben, right? If they win a trophy with him at not the first time of asking, because we've been in the FA Cup and Carabao Cup, but you know what I mean, the first final, it can do something to that squad. Not to a lot of them, because I think still not good enough. Yeah. But it can do something within. It can get Ruben to put his feet under the table and say, right, let me attack this summer now. We've got a trophy. The fans are behind him. You know, most fans. I think there's a loud minority that are like, he's clueless.
I think United fans are pretty good though, generally.
100%, especially the match-going fans. 100%. So I feel that if we can win this Europa League, it'll be absolutely massive for Ruben Amorim, for him to calm down and see a bit more clearly, and also for the direction and players that, you know, Man United can bring in.
Plenty still to play for as far as Manchester United are concerned, which is crazy to say when you look at where they are in the
well,
league
one
table,
thing to play for.
It's not all doom and gloom. Yeah, plenty on the line though, for sure.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.